Ricky exclusive YouTube channel with Reverend Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist. No longer practices a reverend anymore. I gave it away. I just felt the call went off my life to engage in that. It was time to step back. But I have decades of experience and understanding that I'm doing these videos to just help people. They're a little bit unreligious, they're a little bit raw, but I'm getting some good feedback, so that's the main thing. What's it like to be a killer of giants? What's it like to take on face first those things that just seem too big for you to manage? Well, I can tell you one thing: if you pull it off, it's rewarding. If you do nothing, it's depressing and oppressing. How many times have you been in a situation where your relationship is dependent and relied upon your capabilities of resolve, where you needed to find a way to bring resolve to a situation that would otherwise be lost without it? Have you found yourself in situations where you're frightened of the person, be it a relative, maybe even a child? I've seen this with my sister. Her young daughter there at one stage was quite a handful, but they come good in the end somehow. But have you found yourself in a situation where the pressure upon your relationship is coming from a third person? Or there's just a person at work that will not leave you alone, and it's getting to the point where your job is possibly being jeopardized if this situation doesn't get resolved. Have you ever had to deal with the moods of a controlling person, a manipulative person, self-grandized? They have to have their way. Everybody has to work around how they feel. If they're not feeling right, everybody else has to run and jump to get them to where they need to be. They've been pedestalized, and now you can't get them off that pedestal. You caused it. You made it. You built that pedestal from to sit on, and now you can't work out a way to kill this giant. It's just all over you, controlling you, running the way your life should be. And you've accommodated it for years and years. And as a matter of fact, you're the reason for it. Could be your child, could be your relationship, could even be a friend or a boss, a work colleague. Sometimes we go around rescuing people only to find that it was the worst thing we ever could have done. And you can't keep finding reasons to make people weak, because that's what it does. It makes people weak. It makes people expect that they'll get their way. They'll put tantrums on and they'll go quiet. Passive-aggressive abuse. It's actually narcissistic, covert narcissism in its truest form. You'll find these people have to have their way. They're not negotiable unless they're getting their way. Say, be it alcohol, be it sex even. A lot of men will become infantile if they're not getting their alcohol or their sex or their dope. If you're the supplier for that person, a parent who supplies these things, not sex, of course, or I would hope not, and I say that very carefully, how do you undo it? You don't want to supply this person anymore. They've become gluttonous in their need for these things. And you haven't just created a giant. You've created a monster. And you're desperately trying to find a way of fixing this problem. They're involved in your relationship. They won't let you have peace in your love life. Yeah, this is children usually with parents. It can be what's now become a toxic partner. They're not going to let you have any happiness or peace within your own relationship, which you started with them. And now you've got to try and figure out a way in which you can slay this giant. A lot of people leave. A lot of people make reason for the other person to leave. If I have an affair, he'll leave. If I torment him enough, he'll leave. Some people won't leave. Some people will not leave. It's just the way their devotion is. But usually, if you drive them mad enough for long enough, and this is what happens in a lot of relationships now, people want to get out, so they just apply intolerable tactics until you give in and lose out. That's the way in which people deal with things. I've seen some relationships where the wife's been absolutely horrible to the man and had to have an affair to finally find a way to leave. They just want out for whatever reason. It's not always legitimate. It's not always fair or right. Some women want to stay in and they're being abused by a man on alcohol or substances or sleeping around. They just don't know when they're being treated wrong. If you say to a partner, please, I don't want you to drink like that anymore. I don't want you to smoke weed like that anymore. I think you're over medicating, etc. And they're not listening to you. What do? You don't need the therapy, they do. You don't need to come into order, they do. So what do? Well, in all honesty, in some cases, you're just encouraging it if you really don't make a stand and go, look, I can't live with you anymore. And this is happening more and more now as time's wearing on, because people are becoming more and more dependent on these substances, and they ruin relationships. They ruin health. They ruin mental health. They ruin understanding. These people become selfish. They try and hide to have their substances. They'll be often closet drinkers or smokers. They'll set up relationships where they've got time for their habit and time for their partner. And if you're prepared to put up with that, that's up to you. And you'll find these people living a double life. It's very hard. How do you slay the giant? The first thing you do is you recognize, without delusion, you can't be delusional, that there really is an issue with this person that you need to fix. Recognize without any delusion that there's a problem that needs to be fixed, that needs to be resolved. Once you've recognized that that problem is there, then you have something to work with. And once you recognize that problem is there and you're not just being judgmental, then you're able to, with authenticity and integrity, start to look for a solution. And it's going to be a matter of whether this person wants to join with you in finding one or not. These people will kick, they will scream, they'll make life miserable for you and all the people around you. They'll gang up, psychologically assaulting you, abusing you. I'm talking about children, be them teenagers, right down to under 10, right up to 60-year-old. I've got mates that's brothers and sisters are 50, 60 and just couldn't find their ways out of drugs. And they're still dependent on the parents, and the parents are still enabling it. They kick and scream, manipulate, threaten suicide. That's a big one, the suicide threat. Self-harm, you'll find them lying there. Usually they're not OD'd, they're just pretending to be, to cause a panic, to get more attention. They will send everything you have into a deficit. Your psychological health, your physical health, your emotional health, and your bank They love your bank. If you want to supply them your money, you go right ahead. But I think it's time for somebody listening to this, it's time to slay the dragon, to slay the giant. Recognize the problem. Confront the issue. Just confront the issue. I'm not happy with the way in which you drink. I'm not happy with all the medication you're taking. I'm not happy with the drugs that you're taking. I'm not happy with the way you're treating me. I'm not happy with you talking to that person on social media. I'm not happy with it. And you get some value back for you. What happens then is you start to get value back for yourself. You're reclaiming yourself and your values. This person has worked on you in a way in which they're trying to pull down your values and pull you down with it at the same time. And you should not let anybody do that. If you say to somebody, please present yourself to me in a way in which you're going to remain attractive, and they just keep doing what you've asked them not to, then they've got no respect for who you are or what you're asking for. They don't care. They don't really care if you're going to resolve anything or not. They're going to put themselves in a situation of value for you, and you need to treat it as such. Otherwise, it'll go on and on and on and on. Recognize the problem, confront the issue, and then wait for a result. Now, sometimes results take time, but I would give it a week to 2 weeks, and if you're not seeing any improvement, then walk away. Kick the person out or walk away from the situation, because you're just going to go downhill. You remember, you've already gotten to the point where you're depleted, exhausted, the finances are stressed, they're just using you, abusing you to meet their end. They've drained your emotional bank. They've ruined your relationship with whoever, and now you're trying to undo all the damage that they've done to you personally. You've got to confront the issue, identify the issue without delusion, confront the issue in honesty, give it time to see if you're going to get a result, and then slay the dragon, the monster, the giant. Slay that giant and reclaim yourself. Rebuild your emotional welfare, your mental and physical health, because they don't care about it, or you wouldn't be in that state. I remember, just in closing, I was about 16 years old, and I was giving my mother a terrible time. Pushed and pushed and pushed, and then one day the stepfather come down the hallway, grabbed me round the throat, lifted me up against the wall and said, if you ever disrespect that woman like that again, you'll have nowhere to live. And then dropped me back on the floor. And I learned a lesson that day. And it didn't need to be that way for him or for her. But I learned a lesson that day, that sometimes it's time to grow up and get things in order. Give away the drugs. Give away the alcohol. Give away the bad attitude. Give away the I deserve, the world owes me. And start to seek wisdom and things that matter in life. But you might be doing that person a favour by confronting the issue with power. Otherwise, and it's up to the person at the end of the day, whether they're going to comply or not, they'll just go on and on and on until nobody, has got anything left. Everybody is wasted. There's nothing left for anybody. Confront the issue after you've recognised it. 1 to 2 weeks, and then slay the dragon. Just slay it and get on with reclaiming yourself. This is Reverend Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist. Bye for now.